The National Security Bill seems to me to be missing the entire point. National security ought to be about the security of people to live without starvation, to have somewhere safe and secure as a roof over their heads. And what this tends to do, this whole bill, is name people and give a huge power to the Home Secretary to decide on what people or organisations should be banned in the future. It's a major step to try sanctions against anybody or to ban anybody. At the very least, it should be subject to parliamentary and public scrutiny before decisions are made. The reason I raised my voice in opposition to the bill was that I felt there was no proper scrutiny over the way decisions were going to be made.
It was just done in one day, wasn't it? It was
all done in one day.
Yeah.
And that's been done before when the Prevention of Terrorism Act was passed in 1974, passed all its stages in one day and denied people's human rights for the next 30 years.
So the National Security Bill is essentially it's a pre-step to prescribing the IRGC. So yeah, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, it's very interesting. IRGC is an Iranian security organization, a military organization. It's not a terror organization. It is a defense organization that defends Iran and defends Iran very well. We've seen Iran under attack, illegal attack, or actually two illegal attacks by US and Israel. Thousands of people murdered. The second attack started by killing the Ayatollah and most of his family in his home because he didn't leave his home, so it wasn't difficult to do. And 170-something little girls and their teachers in elementary school. The country that attacks everyone in the Middle East is fine. Our citizens are going to fight in Gaza, committing genocide. It's fine. Iran defends itself against an illegal, immoral, and totally mad attack by Israel and the US, and we need to proscribe the IRGC. Why?
Well, the justification that they used was that there's a state of national security because of the arson attacks on the ambulances, what they were specifically cited, and the stabbing of the two Jewish men. Of course, they didn't mention the stabbing of the Muslim man earlier that day, or the fact that the attacker had mental health problems, and just creating a media frenzy around that as if it's a threat to our security is complete nonsense, right?
Well, somebody leaves a mental hospital and then stabs three people, two of them just by chance were Jewish. He is not connected to the IRGC or to Iran. He is a mental patient that actually was in a mental institution because he was already stabbing people before he got in. So what is this to do with the IRGC, with Iran, that is defending itself from illegal assault? I think the whole thing is just warmongering of the worst kind against Iran, against China, against Russia, and not against those people who actually start the wars. Not against the United States, not against Israel.
And all of these wars have one thing in common. The United States is central to them all.
People that can't afford health care and the climate burning. We say hell no to $1 trillion Pentagon budget. We also know that war is not just dropping bombs. There is warfare by economic means, and that is what the U.S. government is doing to Cuba right now with a depraved policy. psychotic, evil policy of depriving the Cuban people of oil, of food, of medicines, of White House people cheering while the infant mortality rate doubles, while babies are dying in incubators.
Well, and it's an authoritarian crackdown here, isn't it? Because there's going to be an economic crisis as a consequence of the war on Iran, and they don't want people asking questions or providing, convincing narratives. So it's a crackdown. And what was really upsetting was how the Greens responded, how they behaved with the national security bill. So initially, all 5 Green MPs were in favour of the bill, and then the Greens for Palestine sort of pushed against this, and they changed their position. But then clause 3, which was the most important clause that effectively prescribed the IRGC, the Greens all voted for it. So as a Green member yourself, how do you feel about that?
Well, I feel betrayed because we've made those arguments that I'm voicing now to the leadership and to the MPs. We made those arguments very, very clearly. And instead of actually calling for a proscription of the IDF, which would be the thing to do, instead of calling for...
Have the Greens not done that, called for a prescription of the IDF?
No,
really?
No, they haven't done it.
Right.
They haven't even called for Israel to be expelled from the UN, which I would expect that they should do. And we're now trying to push for that. So, yes, there are things that you can do against aggressive states, but the Greens have not done it. I'm sure, and I'm optimistic that we can push this over the next year. We can push those measures and they will pass because most of the members support it. The leadership, as you saw and as you mentioned, is not supporting those measures, and we have to make sure that we make our voice heard.
The Greens claim to be this party that does things differently. It's about the membership, it's a bottom-up party. That's how they present themselves, right?
Well, a number of us were silenced in the Green Party in the spring conference in a very brutal manner. And none of those people responsible for the silencing and for the derailing the conference from discussing the agenda has faced any punitive action, even not an inquiry. We're insisting on this, and I think we'll get our way because this is natural justice. They cannot agree with us, but they cannot silence us.
What is the purpose of what the government is trying to do in trying to prescribe the IRGC? Because the IRGC is not actually impacting in any way, shape or form on the British Isles, on British territory or anything of that type. So why would you want to do that? So when an activist goes out on the street and wants to say that, look, this is completely unacceptable in terms of what's going on, are they then going to be targeted? Is that another ruse to silence them? So we really need to think about how this is going to pan out, and this silencing techniques that the British government is using, whether it's through these bills or other bills, needs to actually stop, and the British state needs to wake up and say that, look, you need to stop continuing to be a totalitarian state, a fascist police state, which the Stasi police state of East Germany would have been proud of, and start thinking that, look, we need to pay some kind of lip service to being some kind of a democracy and allow people to express their opinion, to express free speech, and stop this kind of nonsense trajectory that it seems to be on.
In the UK, Palestine Action, a non-violent direct action group, has been proscribed for the first time in British history, and over 3,400 people have been arrested as terrorists for opposing genocide. Civil liberties that have taken generations to win have been eroded.
The main strategy of the West has been to demonize the Islamic of Iran, and we have to understand that and fight that, because Iran is opening the way for not just national liberation struggles all over the world, but for all the oppressed and for the exploited in the world.
With the world economic collapse being imminent, Donald Trump eventually caved in. So this is a massive defeat by US imperialism and the Zionist regime. It's a game changer in geopolitics, not only in West Asia, but globally, I think. It's going to change the balance of forces in favor of national liberation movements in West Asia, but also anywhere in the world. And it's going to be beneficial to anti-imperial struggles and struggles for social justice all over the world.
A lot of Greens were also suspended, weren't they, for being anti-Semitic accusations, like Tony Greenstein and other people, right?
Well, apparently more than 30 people were suspended. 22 of them were leading candidates of the Greens in the election last week, the local election, and all but one actually won the seats. So you have a situation that excellent candidates for the Greens are elected, and they can't actually be treated as Green councillors because the Green Party, without any process, without any procedure, without any accusation that can be backed, were ejected from the party. We are now following this up with legal aid, and the party will have to change the way it is doing things.
Well, that's really encouraging that the Green Party has members like you and lots of other members fighting this. So just one other point I wanted to make is at the London Assembly, Zach Polanski brought forward a clause that was basically celebrating he said the removal of Khamenei, the supreme leader. So that assassination of Iran's supreme leader is illegal, right?
Well, it's not only illegal, it's totally logical, because Khamenei was basically someone who has harmed no one. Iran has harmed no one. Iran had to fight for 8 years against Saddam Hussein, that was armed and supported by the West, to actually survive. Iran had to fight the sanctions that America and the West have imposed on it. Children died without medications because of those sanctions. Why were the sanctions imposed in the first place? What was it that Khamenei did that merited this disgusting accusation by Zach Polanski? I think this is very disturbing. I think many of the members, maybe most of the members, are in disagreement with what he has done, and he is going to face anger in the party. He's already facing anger in the party.
Good. I mean, he was citing unfounded statistics around the riots as well. So he's got to listen. He really has to start listening to his members and not being selective in who he listens to.
Well, he has listened before and corrected some of the positions that were taken by him, and I hope that he will do so again. Yeah. Otherwise, on what authority is he quoting those statistics which were proven to be wrong? So, Iran is in a position that anyone can lie about it and get away with it, and that's wrong.
Well, and also we got to remember that Iran is the one that is actually impacting and damaging the Israeli regime. And what has anyone else done? I mean, like, we should be thanking
Iran
them.
is the only country in the world that supports the Palestinians and the Lebanese under attack by a genocidal regime. So if this is what we have against Iran, then this is very bad. We should all join the actions by Iran that actually made it a condition that war should stop before it will sign an agreement with the United States. War everywhere in the Middle East. Israel is the chaos engine of the West. It starts wars in order to enlarge its empire, and nobody is even considering proscribing Israel, which they should. So I think that Zach Polanski
and sanctioning Israel as well.
Very, very bad. I don't agree with that action. I know that all the Greens I know don't agree with this action, and we're taking it up.
Great.
Last year, the world as a whole spent $2.7 trillion on arms. That money was money not spent on health, not spent on housing, not spent on environmental improvement. That was money going straight into the coffers of the world's arms companies.
All inventories are going to be completely depleted in a few weeks' time, and Donald Trump is very much aware of that. The question is whether, under the impact of this impending catastrophe for the world economy, would be able to restrain Israel, and Netanyahu in particular, to halt its aggression against Lebanon. Even though in the short term the ceasefire and the MOU's implementation is going to be fragile and unstable, in the longer term, in the next few months, I think the US has got no option other than reining in Netanyahu.
They could cut off the arms budget to Israel. It's quite an easy solution to this problem.
Yeah, and it may come to that. It may come to that because I think Israel leadership and the Israel society will have a hard time to digest the magnitude of this historic defeat. But this is not going to be smooth in Israel. I mean, they're not going to accept that, and Israel is imploding from within. There are many divisions within Israel, and this will just accentuate those divisions.
The horror of what has been happening in Iran, the continued invasion of Lebanon, and perhaps the greatest cause of our age of our time has been the genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza, and the disgusting role played by Western European countries, including Britain, in supplying arms to Israel, knowing the genocide was going on, knowing those bombs are going to take the lives, the homes, the hospitals and the schools of the children of Gaza and of Palestine. Let us stand up for the people of Palestine and pledge we will be there as long as it takes to end the occupation and allow the Palestinian people to decide their own future in peace.
Iran actually never attacked any other country without provocation. Never. Israel has attacked so many countries, I couldn't tell you the number. Israel started more wars than the rest of the world put together. Israel has never suffered sanctions. Iran has suffered sanctions from 1979. It is actually crippled by sanctions. Iran has no nuclear weapons. The Ayatollah had a ruling against it, a fatwa against nuclear weapons, because he believed these are not Islamic weapons. They are killing the innocent with the guilty. Therefore, as a humanist, he did not want Iran to have nuclear weapons. I know that they've actually worked on refining uranium, but they have not prepared or were going to prepare nuclear weapons. Israel has 400 nuclear devices.
It's time to change the agenda. It's time for us to say to whoever the next Prime Minister of Britain is, wherever else, change course, stop the arms trade, stop the walk into war, and instead, let's